Hi, welcome to Dave's Shop. I'm Dave. On today's episode, we're going to be making a fixture for my handheld trim router. I need something with a fence so I can make a keyhole in a project that I'm going to be working on. So I used a CNC machine to make a template from a previous project. We added a fence, and now I have a good guide for my handheld router. So follow along. Thanks.
All right, I have my Vectric VCarve desktop open, and I've already made the design for this plate extension for my router. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I had previously made a replacement plate for my router, so I took the same one that I had done and I just utilized it. I extended it approximately 7 inches, and I created a couple of pockets for the screws to go through. And the screws are basically, I'll have a straight edge of aluminum going this way, left to right, with holes in it, screws and wing nuts, and that will allow me to move the fence as it is to any of these positions. I then marked out, starting at 1 inch away from the center of the router bit, moving outward at 1/2 inch intervals, and that should give me quite a bit of flexibility. And this is the perimeter that I'll cut out, and we'll test it out. And I think what I'll be able to do is use that for various different projects where I need to route either a rabbit or maybe a keyhole, depending on the project. So next step, and as you see over here, I've got 5 different tool paths. So I got one for the dimensional marks using an engraving bit. I've got the bolt, I call it the bolt ledge, but it's where the head of the bolt will sit. So that's milled slightly below the surface to clear the clearance for the head of the bolt. And then the hole cuts, including the bolt holes, and these are just, this is the center of the original plate, and these are just additional holes that the original plate had, so I've included them. The slot cutouts for the bolt, and finally the profile cutout. So that's where we're at. The next step will be is to cut a piece of board, the dimensional size, which in this case I'm using 7 inches wide by 10.5 inches by 1/4 inch thick, and we'll mount that in the CNC machine, get it all ready, and go through each of these tool paths and see how it works out, and then put it together on the router. Alright, so we're starting here with our engraving bit, doing our indicator lines, and as you see, the board is down on the spoil board using the tape and super glue method. So here we've switched over our end mill, and we're starting to do the holes. Now I've got a new router on here. It's not the factory one, it's a Bauer from Harbor Freight, and I have a new dust collection port added to it. Now one thing I didn't realize, and I found out here, is the bristles are too long, so you see them flexing. That's not allowing the bit to cycle all the way down and do the cutting. So when we get to the next stage here, I've removed it and I'm just going to use the vacuum. I'm going to have to go back and make some adjustments to that new bracket and the bristles themselves. are just finishing up the end of the profile, and once that's done, we'll be able to remove it from the board. This is the board prepped and ready for polyurethane, and a coat of polyurethane on it and drying. This is the fence that I made. It's 3/4 inch angle aluminum, and these are all the components to put it together.
Okay, we have our keyhole slot, so I'm going to insert it. Tighten it up. And we want to be able to use this hex head in our key slot. So I'm just going to set it down a bit. I'm not going to measure it because this is just sort of prototyping. And what do we want to do next? We need a battery. Okay, so I guess one other thing I can do is just make a line quickly. Mark it at 2.5 on this piece of wood. There, and now we'll try it out. Okay, so as you see, I didn't do very good on that. Alright, we're going to try this on a longer board, a little bit more secure now, and maybe I won't wobble as much. So let's try it out and see. Well, giggles, we'll try the other side. Still wants to move. So. Okay, so I think that's the better way to go on that side. There you go. Fits right in there. So I think the lesson is, if you're going this direction, you need to stay on this side, and you're going to have it pulling and putting pressure against it. Whereas the other way, it wants to turn off and I think that's the problem there. So good to know, because we're going to try this on one of our next projects. Well, there you have it. Wasn't an overly hard project, and yes, you could have done that without a CNC using power tools and hand tools. But I have the CNC, so I might as well be using it for something that I can make. Join us next time when we use this actual fixture on another project. I'm sure you're going to want to see that. Don't forget to like and click the subscribe for future videos. Thanks very much.